really covered David Wood on this channel. He's the guy who had the Act 17 Apologetics YouTube channel. I do think that this is probably one of the first times that I've sat here and just went, you know, aside from the story where you clubbed your dad in the head with a hammer, this is probably the time where I really want to cover you. And the only reason I never covered that one is because by the time I discovered that video, Vice, Rhino, and everybody else had already covered it. So, and I'm not trying to say that to poison the well. I don't want to get into that. But I do want to talk about this video here. And it is him saying that Donald Trump getting banned from Twitter is incredibly bad and we should all be scared. Every single one of us. So let's go ahead and get into his reasoning for that.
The tech tyrants just went nuclear ahead of schedule.
Yes, Donald Trump has been suspended. Oh no.
A month ago, I said this. The greatest single threat to your freedom here in the West is a handful of tech tyrants and the trust and safety teams on their platforms who are steering public opinion in certain directions by controlling what you can say and who will hear what you say.
So, it's not that he's wrong, but I wonder if he understands what algorithms are and what algorithms do. Because it is those same algorithms that showed his channel to enough people to get him 556,000 subscribers. That's not a deliberate thing. That's just algorithms doing what they do. Showing you to who they will. Based on the things that they have already looked up. It is more likely that somebody who's engaging in Christian content is going to discover your channel. It is more likely that somebody engaging in atheist content is going to discover my channel. This is pretty standard. Now, I know that you're talking about one deliberate thing. The silencing of Donald Trump. Or at least now you are. This video in the past you're not. But this is an issue that people on the left have had as well. If you've ever seen the video by, American Johnson. Faraday Speaks has a video where he talks about how he went down the alt-right pipeline, and American Johnson has a video where he talks about how that pipeline is constructed, basically pointing out how algorithms in YouTube generally take you down and make you see similar content, and essentially stick you in an echo chamber eventually. This is a standard thing about how algorithms function. They find the things that you're interested in, and they plug more of that stuff into you. It's pretty normal at this point. It's not necessarily a good or bad thing in and of itself, unless they are taking you down a radicalization line. But there is more to this video. I just wanted to explain how that works, and that it works essentially for both sides. It just comes on to the content creators on any individual side to produce more content so that a pipeline can be streamlined if they are so worried about the damages that can come from within it.
And I said this. If you still don't understand why I say that the greatest single threat to your freedom here in the West is a handful of tech tyrants and the trust and safety teams on their platforms, just think about this. How much political influence did Facebook and Twitter and YouTube wield just 10 years ago?
So I would like to point out that it's not because these companies have a lot more power that they wield so much political influence now. It is that individual users are all hopping on those platforms, and as a result, that happens. It's these companies have always had massive shit tons of power, but their power is limited to how many people are on their platforms. This is going to come up later.
Pretty much none. How much political influence do they wield now? Do they ever get better? Or do they constantly, relentlessly get worse, more power hungry, more oppressive? You are living right in the middle of the most epic power grab in history. If these tech tyrants have been able to seize this much power and influence over the past decade, how much power and influence do you think they'll have in another decade?
Probably a lot more. As more people use their platform, as more people start getting more smart devices and end up hopping on these platforms more often, they will gain more power. Yes, but my question at this point is, what is the answer to that? David. I think I said Mike at one point. That was wrong. But, David, there is an answer to this. And part of that already kind of happened recently with the breaking up of Facebook. Breaking it up into constituent parts so that it cannot maintain being a monopoly. This is a thing with capitalism. Generally, in a capitalistic society, you have competition. But competition to what end? Competition can only lead to innovation up until a certain point. And the point that it stops leading into innovation is when one company has won that competition and begins to start the process of monopolization. Once that monopolization has begun, then undue power is wielded by the company. This is a thing we see from the big media companies, especially Disney, with its buyouts, and this is the thing that you could be seeing from Google and Facebook right now. It's not that I don't agree that big tech is a bad thing. It's that the perspective here is not entirely accurate. Because it seems to me that David's issue is more along the lines of, hey, they're going to get rid of people like Trump, and that's a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. Them having the ability to have power may be a bad thing, but this is like saying that having a weapon is a bad thing, and there are some people who might agree with you, even statistically speaking. It does not mean that defending your family one time from a coyote or a home invader or anything like that with a weapon is a bad thing. But let's continue.
How correct was I? Well, Twitter just slapped the President of the United States right in the mouth. And there is absolutely nothing he can do about it because the tech tyrants are now more powerful as far as speech is concerned than the U.S. government, CNN reports. Twitter has suspended President Trump from its platform, the company said Friday evening. After close review of recent tweets from the @RealDonaldTrump account and the context around them, we have permanently suspended the account due to the risk of further incitement of violence, Twitter said. In the context of horrific events this week, we made it clear on Wednesday that additional violations of the Twitter rules would potentially result in this very course of action. Well, if President Trump was inciting violence, that would indeed be against the platform's policies, unless your name happens to be Muhammad, in which case you get a free pass. So let's see what Trump tweeted.
So before we get into that, is it an undue wielding of power for a media company to take some responsibility for radicalization or even damage that can come as a result of improper use of their platform? You can't just sit back all the time and just wipe your hands and go, nope, nope, nope. We didn't do it, even though you provided the tools for doing so. Not generally going to be the best way to go about things. But let's go ahead and see the even though everybody probably knows the things that Trump has tweeted at this point, it's not exactly news, but we'll go ahead and continue.
Twitter's decision followed 2 tweets by Trump Friday afternoon that would end up being his last. So,
before we get any further into that, there is somebody or there's a thing that is being mentioned in the chat, and I do want to address it. Nobody except David is saying that Muhammad gets a pass. This is a thing that generally tends to happen with him, is that he'll start criticizing Islam, even though Islam is guilty of all the exact same things that Christianity is guilty of, unless you're talking about individual acts from individual sects of Islam. All of Islam is not ISIS. All of Islam is not Al-Qaeda. Just like all of Christianity is not the KKK. All of Christianity is not the Mormons, etc. But this is a whataboutism thing that tends to be spouted here. And it was a thing spouted whenever I was talking about this on Twitter as well, where you point out, yeah, no, getting rid of Trump is definitely a good thing, given that he has caused damage on this platform, using this platform. And then they respond, what about China? What about Islam? What about? I'm not engaging in whataboutism! What are you talking about? The people who do this are either deliberately obfuscating or absolute fucking morons. Because at the end of the day, if you are responding to something like this with what about, and then saying you're not engaging literally in whataboutism, maybe you need a primer on the English language. David has not done that yet, though. This is just me saying what's gone on Twitter in my conversations so far. But let's continue with the video.
The tweets violated the company's policy against glorification of violence, Twitter said. Oh my goodness, he was glorifying violence?
Yes. That sarcastic, oh my goodness, was he? No, he definitely was. I was covering for 14 and a half hours the entirety of what was going on. Of course, Growlithe is barking now. Growly, come here. I don't need your barking. But I was covering this for 14 and a half hours while everything was going on. He literally called his constituents, called the people at his rally after telling them to storm the Capitol, saying that they were all special and that he loves them very much and that they are doing everything they're doing for the right reasons. And then he added in the obligatory, oh, but don't be violent. Oh, but be peaceful. Oh, but everything you're doing, it's for the right reasons. You're so special. He knows he's got a base of snowflakes, and he knows how to pander to them. And using Twitter as his official platform to do all that, you can imagine how eventually a company would go, yeah, no, maybe it's time to not deal with this shit anymore.
And these two tweets must be read in the context of broader events in the country and the ways in which the president's statements can be mobilized by different audiences, including to incite violence, as well as in the context of the pattern of behavior from this account in recent weeks. The first tweet was about Trump's supporters.
The 75 million great American patriots who voted for me, America first, and make America great again, will have a giant voice long into the future. They will not be disrespected or treated unfairly in any way, shape, or form.
And to anyone who has seen what happens whenever you have people who are bred in this victim mentality, this snowflake mentality, this is what you see. You see a leader going, oh, no, it's okay. It's okay. Now, I'm not going to let anybody say anything about you, sweetheart. I'm not going to let you, America first, MAGA, you guys are going to be very important in the future. I'm not going to let anybody disrespect you guys. This is coddling a base that has engaged in violence on multiple occasions. And not for any actual good reason. Violence in self-defense is self-defense. This is not what that is. This is violence because well, let's look at the history. We're angry that Jews were going to replace them? We're angry that Trump lost an election? These are not acts of self-defense. These are acts of children living in a fantasy world. And Trump pandering to that is an issue. And there's nothing wrong with cutting the knees out from him when he's doing that.
Huh. So that's glorifying violence.
No. First of all, you did a thing, David. It's a very dishonest thing. The statement above said these statements have to be read in the context in which they happened. The events surrounding them. And then, in your snide remark on the actual, or one of the tweets that was used, that's inciting violence? Did you forget the part that they literally just said about the context in which this stuff said? It was given there. And everybody in the chat who's saying free speech, free speech, free speech, can I point out that Twitter's a private platform, and if you want to have it so that a private business can do the things that a private business wants to do, you cannot also cry free speech.
Second indicated Trump did not plan to attend Joe Biden's inauguration. To all of those who have asked, I will not be going to the inauguration on January 20th. So those were the tweets that were glorifying and inciting violence?
No, those are not the tweets that are glorifying and inciting violence. Those are just the things that are being used in CNN's article. The actual tweets that were being used to glorify and incite violence are numerable, and they are not just 2 tweets. They even pointed out, actually, when you read earlier, that there was a pattern of behavior that they were using to make their decision. There was a pattern of behavior that was decided by them, and it was given as the reason, and you read it out. But then apparently your ability to actually have reading comprehension just suddenly turned off as soon as it was convenient for you.
Twitter said the tweet concerning inauguration could be viewed as a further statement that the election was not legitimate. It also said that the tweet could be interpreted as Trump saying that the inauguration would be a safe target for violence because he would not be attending.
And this is also in line with something from before. If you look at the statement about a pattern, when Trump had his rally, he made a point to vacate after his rally, the rally that turned into the siege on the Capitol. A siege that immediately went for people who were part of the presidential line of succession. You know, McConnell, Pelosi, and Pence. All of them were there. I don't want to put on the tinfoil hat, but the fact of the matter is, if you are reading this all in context, pointing out that there was a pattern of behavior from before, this would be in line with the pattern of behavior. You can't just read it as an isolated tweet. And that's not how the Trust and Safety team decided to read it. This is not me celebrating Twitter's decision, because at the end of the day, it's way too little, way too late. There are plenty of times where Trump has riled up his base and caused them to become deranged lunatics. And this was the time that they finally decided to do it, a couple weeks before he's losing most of his power. That was when they decided to do it. That's my criticism, is that Twitter did not do this first and earlier, when they generally ban multiple other people's accounts for far less reasons and far fewer than what they did with Trump.
Ah, now I get it. So when Trump tweeted that he wouldn't be attending Biden's inauguration, this could be read as an invitation to white supremacist terrorists to attack the inauguration. Sounds like the Trust and Safety team graduated from the Kathy Newman School of Comprehension.
No, that's actually just a logical progression. If you look at what has happened in the past and the actions that Trump has engaged in the past, this does not need to be read as coded language. Because it does not need to be deliberate for it to be stochastic. If we need a primer on stochastic terrorism, we'll do it. But the fact of the matter is, Trump does not need to deliberately be trying to stage something like this in order for it to happen. But also, can I point out that Trump supporters, not all of them, but many of them, especially the QAnon folks, if you go peruse places in the past, like 8chan, you will find these people on 8chan and Poll believe that Trump engages in 4D chess. Every dumb move he makes it's part of a grander plan. They think that secret coded messages are coming from Trump at all points. It doesn't matter if Trump himself is actually delivering coded messages. None of that matters. Because his base believes he is. And because his base believes he's doing so, they're going to read into that. It does not matter if he actually is deliberately doing it. And that's the reason that it was a safety issue. Again, too little, too late. But if you were to actually ignore a pattern of behavior from an individual and ignore the response from their we'll just go ahead and call it what it is, from his thought fan base, that's the only way you could get to the conclusion you're at right now, is literally by ignoring all the context, which, might I add, you read out the part where they said that everything in context ultimately culminated in their decision.
Trump's other statement about American patriots suggested that he plans to continue to support, empower, and shield those who believe he won the election, Twitter said. Isn't he about to be gone? How exactly will he be empowering and shielding people after he's gone? Not surprisingly, this ban is being celebrated by Trump's enemies. Civil rights leaders who have long criticized tech platforms for spreading hate speech and division welcomed Twitter's decision. Jonathan Greenblatt, the CEO of the Anti-Defamation League, called it an excellent step, a fitting end to a legacy of spewing hate and vitriol, Greenblatt said. President Trump incited the violent riots at the Capitol using social media and paid the price. Eric Nang, a spokesman for Muslim advocates, said Twitter is showing real leadership.
That's going to be the part that he's going to focus on, isn't it?
As Twitter notes, letting Trump continue to post tweets, Facebook posts, and YouTube videos for his white nationalist supporters risks further incitement of violence, Nang said. Now it is up to Facebook and Google/YouTube to follow Twitter's lead. Wow, that's interesting. That was the spokesman for Muslim advocates agreeing.
I told you that was the one he was going to focus on. Ah, my enemy, the Muslim, agreed. Therefore bad. Fucking genetic fallacy.
That Trump was glorifying and inciting violence when he said that he wouldn't attend Biden's inauguration. You could ask the same spokesman and the same organization if Allah was inciting violence when he ordered Muslims to fight those who do not believe in Allah, or if Muhammad was inciting violence when he ordered his followers to execute anyone who leaves Islam.
And this is now whataboutism. This is tu quo que. It does not matter if this individual person holds a double standard, because that holds no sway on Twitter's decision. Twitter did not do this so that they could make Muslims happy. None of that matters. That's all tangential. This is stuff to make your base happy. This is not stuff that actually makes anybody who knows how logic works happy. It's a type of genetic fallacy arguing that this was done because of an individual source, the Muslim advocate. And it is tu quo que because you are engaging in whataboutism and arguing that, well, would you say that about Allah? It doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter if someone else has skeletons in their closet when they make a statement about this. Because at that point, it would be just as valid for them to argue about the skeletons in your closet. And then suddenly, you go down the merry lane of who's the worst person in the world and find out you're both dickwads. You don't actually get anywhere with that conversation. And this is not me trying to be an advocate for Islam at this point. This is me just pointing out your shitty logic.
And you'd get a resounding no. Welcome to a world where your speech is now monitored and controlled by people who decide what you mean based on whether they like you or not.
Now, I am curious. I see that his issue is with speech monitoring. And I accept that. I understand that. And there are some things that we need to tackle and some things that we need to take care of. I think that monitoring of all speech is bad as well. I think people should be able to be free to say what they're going to be able to say, unless, of course, they are causing actual harm with their speech, which President Trump was. We need to have conversations about things like the Patriot Act. Also, G-Wing, what skeletons does he have? Clubbing his dad in with a claw hammer. What do you mean? Anyway, not that he's not open about that. We need to have conversations about things like the Patriot Act. We need to have conversations about things like monitoring, not just monitoring your data, but logging all of it in, especially when you don't consent. The amount of people who have done things like speaking around their phone about topics that they're interested in, and then suddenly they're getting advertisements on their phone, on Amazon and other places, because it recorded what they said, logged it into a database, and then cached it and started using it so that it could sell them shit. There are conversations to be had about whether or not we should allow most of that. I personally don't think we should. Logging of data when I'm just looking stuff up, fine. Logging of data when I'm just talking with my family, that's an invasion of privacy to me. I agree. The problem is, if you're going to advocate, and I don't know exactly what David's stances on capitalism are, but if you're going to advocate for things like, say, the bakery being able to bake its cake at its discretion, then Twitter can ban people off its platform at its discretion. Because it's just a company at that point. However, I do think that we need to do something about big tech being as big as it is and not having ample competition. Just, I don't think that me and David necessarily align on the reasons why. At all.
If they like you, then you obviously mean something entirely peaceful, even if you're openly calling for the violent subjugation of the entire world. If they don't like you, then you're obviously calling for violence, even if you're simply giving instructions on how to make a sandwich.
That's not what's happening here. So, let me go ahead and point out that if you were to argue, just as a devil's advocate, because I don't know the individual actors at play, so I'm just going to construct a hypothetical and work with that. And if it turns out that the hypothetical is wrong, cool, you beat a hypothetical. Congrats. But if you were to take the argument that everybody is committing a genetic fallacy, everybody but me is committing a genetic fallacy, because based on the source, making a sandwich would be violent, but because the source is Muslim, they can argue for genocide and it's fine. I don't think anybody's actually making that argument. I can't think of anybody making that argument. If somebody who was an advocate for Islam just wanted LGBTQ people to be treated equally, fuck it, fine, whatever, we're friends. I don't care. That's good. But if they were advocating for genocide of non-believers, of apostates, then we'd have an issue. Then at that point, no, this person's not my friend. They are my enemy. They are completely against any humanist cause that I would support. If this person is a Christian, I will actually quote a Christian who I spoke to in person a handful of years ago at a friend's house. This person had come to date my friend's daughter, and I will quote what he said to me. You know, I honestly don't think there's a problem with ultraviolence so long as God's the one that commanded it. I wish I were making this shit up. I honestly do. But I'm not. I had to challenge him there and ended up almost starting a fight in my friend's living room. Because of what a stupid fucking statement that was and how many violent crimes you could excuse with it. I drowned my kids because God told me to. That type of shit. You can't just say that, well, because he's a Christian and the Christian God said that all these people deserve to burn in hell, this person necessarily wants me to burn and thinks I deserve it. That's not necessarily the case. And the fallacy at play there is called hasty generalization. But let's go ahead and finish David's video. I don't want to sit here and play fallacy bingo all day.
Making a sandwich? Oh my goodness.
Oh boy, the Steven Crowder levels of humor have begun.
You know who also liked sandwiches? Hitler! Shut that sandwich account down immediately. Those sandwich instructions are basically a dog whistle.
ignoring the fact that there are actually dog whistles that people have used out in public in order to gain more followers around themselves when they can't speak about things like Nazi violence openly. Yeah, let's just ignore that. Sure, why not?
Calling for the next Holocaust!
If you have a small account or a small channel and they don't like you, they'll just ban you. What are you going to do about it?
Yes, because you have a terms of service that says that you are part of their platform at will. You agreed to that terms of service when you signed up on their individual platform. I'm sorry that there are rules, David, and that you had to follow them. That is so terribly inconvenient.
If you have a big account or a big channel and they don't like you, they've already decided that they're going to ban you. They're just waiting for you to say something, anything, that they can call hate speech. But if they really, really don't like you, they interpret everything you say as hate speech. So they can point to anything you say and call it hate speech.
That's not how that works either. So, hate speech only generally functions, and the UK does an okay job of this. Hate speech only functions when we have clear defined parameters for what hate speech is. Speech that incites violence, speech that incites hatred, speech that marginalizes minority groups and further ostracizes them. Stuff like that. You can't just say they'll call anything hate speech. Now, granted, I say this knowing that YouTube actually did ban one of my videos, and the reason they gave was hate speech, but please note that there's a difference here. That was a single video. I actually could re-upload the video with a few minor edits if I really wanted to. My channel didn't get a strike. I didn't get taken off the platform. I just had a video taken off. That's not the same thing as cutting off my entire access to a platform.
Now, I think the tech tyrants jumped the gun on this one.
The tech tyrants jumped the gun on getting rid of Trump after allowing him to spew hatred for several years. They jumped the gun after letting him do his shit up until the last couple weeks that he had power. That's jumping the gun? These people hurt my brain.
They had already won. There was no need to spike the ball. But they decided to do an end zone celebration that showed everyone how much power they have.
It's also just virtue signaling at that point. Me and David here might agree that what was done by Twitter was essentially useless, all things considered. Trump gets to play martyr. But this is the thing. So many times, I find myself agreeing with certain things said by people that I'm talking about, but the reasons are vastly different. Yes, this was not the best move, because it should have been done sooner. Yes, this was not the best move, because this was basically them virtue signaling, as opposed to doing anything actually useful. This is not the same thing as saying that, no, this was not a good move because they shouldn't have done because something free speech. I don't understand the First Amendment. What is a global corporation?
About 3 or 4 years too early, this could backfire. If Twitter can justify silencing the President of the United States by saying that him not attending an inauguration
That's not what they said, but okay.
is a call for violence, they can justify silencing anyone for saying anything.
Actually, they can justify silencing anyone for saying anything because everybody who's ever been on their platform agreed to a terms of service that said that they can silence them for any reason. They signed that document, David. That's why they can do that, David. Everybody, including the President of the United States, David, signed the same document that said that they could remove them. Everyone! Every single one of them! David! That's why they have that power, because we gave it to them when we signed it. That's not saying it's good or bad, but that's a reality of using a private corporation's platform. Unless you want to have a conversation about nationalizing Twitter or some shit. Like everybody was having when Alex Jones got banned off of places. And that smug-ass face. I'm not trying to ad hom. But David, yes, big tech is a problem. Yes, their power needs to be diminished. Yes, they need to be broken up into smaller corporations that do not have the same kind of relevance and power and sway that they have right now. But at the end of the day, whining and bitching that your favorite orange Cheeto got taken off the platform and going, they jumped the gun. They shouldn't have done that. It doesn't matter that he's the president. If I have my own corporation, which aside from the fact that I haven't fully filed anything yet, I am a freelancer, but let's pretend that I had my LLC. If the President of the United States messaged me right now and said, hello, Suris, I would like a spot on your platform. I would like to speak with you. There'd be an argument in my head. Do I irresponsibly platform this fat Cheeto? Or do I get the giant spike in views that would come from having him here? Just like there's a spike in users on Twitter by having Trump on that platform, because there are people who are on that platform just to engage with Trump. But the fact is that I can make that decision at my discretion, because it's my platform. If you want to have a problem with that, David, I don't know what to tell you. Unless you want people's individual platforms to be policed, especially by the government, that'd be a really weird position for a conservative. That'd be really strange, wouldn't it? There's going to be a lot of these, I'm sure. There's going to be a lot of these people who are freaking out about Trump getting taken off of a social media platform, even multiple social media platforms, but who are not going to be willing to take it one step further and talk about breaking up big companies. Only big tech companies. Big media companies, they can continue monopolizing and hurting people around them, and then you get, the lovely places like Nestle that can't say under oath whether or not child slavery is used in the creation of their products. Just don't have the conversation about big companies hurting their workforce or hurting anyone else. No. When it's one of the most powerful people in the United States, that's when you've got to have a problem. When they attack the big guy and not when they shit on the little guys, and then you get to hide behind the little guys as a shield. I think this is a very bad faith way of engaging in this conversation, David. And I want to say you're better than this, but I can't. Not honestly. I really can't. Mainly because I do not know enough about you as an individual, as a person, to be able to isolate when you are engaging in good faith and bad faith conversation. So I will just say this. My estimation is this one's in bad faith. This one does not seem to hold actual, logical rigor to me. But that said, if you guys enjoyed this presentation in any... I don't know how you could, but if you did, hit the like button, go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already, and if you want to support my channel and what I do, please go ahead and check the description of the video. There will be a link to my Patreon down there. If you are watching live, hopefully you guys are enjoying, and I welcome discussion in the comment section below. With that said, we gotta move on to the next thing, so thank you all for watching.